This is the pre-production diary for the Knock Knock podcast. My name is Jason B. Jones. Diary entry 07. I'm excited to have my brother Simon on this week's diary entry. I'm so fortunate because I have such a great relationship with him and consider him one of my closest friends. In his day job, he works in communications for a growing technology company, and his years of experience in this field has been super helpful as we establish our online community. Simon, do you want to introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit more about what you'll be doing?
Sure. My name is Simon Jones, and I'm Betty's grandson and Jason's younger brother. Like Jason, I'm also from Houston, Texas, and currently live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Tell me what you'll be doing going forward to help with the podcast.
I'll be handling communications for the Knock Knock podcast, meaning I'll help answer our listeners' questions, field comments, manage the upcoming message board, and help choose which posts will be featured on Q&A episodes. On last week's diary, Jason mentioned that we'll have Q&A sessions in between our regular Knock Knock episodes. Basically, what that means is that I'll sit with Jason and talk about our recent points of interest from the Knock Knock community.
You've shared with me recently how grateful and overwhelmed you've been by the response to both the video trailer and these early diary entries. Is there anything you want to say to our growing community?
Sure, I wanted to take this opportunity to send every listener a very special thank you. Your support is personal and goes farther than you know. I believe our hearts are in the right place, and we want nothing more than justice and peace for everyone affected by this tragedy nearly 27 years ago. If you haven't done so already, we hope you'll consider rating, commenting, and subscribing to the podcast. And come say hello on Facebook. Send us a message or leave a comment. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas.
Thanks, Simon. Back in February, when we were just getting started, I was still cutting my teeth on what gear to buy, what audio programs to use, and how to record phone interviews. Using Skype, I downloaded a plugin called Call Recorder by a company called Ecamm. Simon was my first guinea pig and my very first interview for this podcast. The spirit behind these behind-the-scenes episodes we're doing now, and because I think it does a beautiful job of showing Simon's heart, I wanted to go ahead and play for you the complete interview that we had. Please pardon the audio quality as we were just getting started.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to ask you a few questions. Just talk to me like normal, just conversationally, and then we'll see how this all sounds, okay?
Okay.
All right. The question that I wanted to ask you is, obviously you really don't have any knowledge of Mama Betty, so you've only heard of her through stories and through how it's, how her murder sort of affected our family. Talk to me just a bit about, in your mind, sort of the influence that this event has had on your life.
Wow. Well, I do. I have frames of memories of Mama Betty. Not even whole moments. I wouldn't even call them, but just snapshots of being around her. And there are very few because I was so young. And I think I remember her being on TV on America's Most Wanted more than I remember her. When I think about it, sure, it makes me sad. And I kind of grew up hearing about it and seeing at times somber moments with mom and dad who actually knew her well and remembering her and wishing she was still around. And that kind of translated to me as the thought of maybe I could have still had a grandmother and maybe she'd still be alive she, lived to have a normal, long life, she could have been around for um, for me growing up. And so, yeah, at times it's disheartening to me and sad that here was a what I hear is a great, kind woman who was very loving and everyone adored her, but who was taken probably long before her time. And the family, myself, you know, uh, missed out on years and years, possibly decades that we could have had with her.
Yeah, and so do you think that, having to deal with a murder in your family? I mean, I haven't come across many people that have shared openly with me that they've dealt with something like that. How do you think that just sort of affected, you know, the way that we grew up or the way that mom and dad raised us?
I mean, I guess it was a little taboo. It was really personal to the family. It wasn't something that certainly not something you go around talking about to everyone you meet. Um, those that that I became close with over the years, I would let them know, just as they would tell me their family history. And yeah, there is that moment of shock because not everybody's had a murder in their family, and there is that. I've experienced that shocked reaction several times when confiding in someone. That it's just hard to believe that they know someone whose grandmother, of all people, was murdered. And they want to know why. They want to know what happened. And yeah, it again. I didn't. You don't advertise it. You don't, especially myself. You don't really wear it on your sleeve. It's just sort of a historical fact. So, kept it to myself. And when I was close enough to someone, I let them know.
And when you think about the idea of a podcast, digging into this unsolved mystery, what do you think? What it's the type of things that we could accomplish doing this?
I've thought about that off and on since you've gotten into this, and since you first started talking about seriously doing it. And I think it could bring a new life to the case. Could bring, if nothing else, it could bring new conversations about her, about that night, about what happened, about DNA evidence and the laws of Mississippi and how that can affect DNA evidence in murder cases. I think that can be a positive outcome of this. Of course, the ultimate goal of any cold case examination is ideally you want to solve it, and of course I would want justice for Mama Betty. I think the whole family would, and everyone that ever knew her, I would assume, would want that. But we're not a court, we're not detectives, but it's kind of at some point it should be on someone to take up the mantle and start asking these questions again, as the case has gotten so cold over the years. And who knows? Yeah, new life can come to it, and even that minimum awareness of who she was, what her story was, and yeah, I think that's what I see coming out of it. Hopefully,
Yeah. And if you could magically be able to say something to Mama Betty, what would it be?
I've grown up. Family misses you, and I hate that your last memories were so violent, and I wish you could have spent more happy moments with us instead.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. I appreciate it. Hopefully this sounds good, and if it doesn't for some reason, we might do this again at some point. But I'm going to try with this one, and then we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Cool. I'll send you a link to this here in just a minute where you can take a listen.
Okay.
All right. See ya.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks, Simon, for taking the time to sit down with me and for being so helpful and supportive through this whole process. If you can, take a minute to reach out on our Facebook page to thank Simon for his help. I know he would appreciate it. Special thanks to the rest of the Knock Knock team: Chris and Lacey from Swell Story Media, Rebecca Jones, Jason Adams, Cole Flynn, and Colleen Jones. You guys are the best. It's my honor to work with all of you. Please be sure and connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Knock Knock Pod. There you can ask me questions, leave your comments, or just say hi. Also make sure and share our website, knockknockpodcast.com, with your friends and family. Full episodes will launch in September, and we'll be back soon with a new pre-production diary entry. Thanks again for subscribing to the Knock Knock Podcast.